Today on the Eurostep.
NBA Finals, who you got?
Trae Young, is he Steph or Jimmer?
And we wrap up the latest news around the league. Hi, I'm Oisin Brown and this is the Eurostep on CRC. Today I'm joined by Killian Loftus
Yeah.
and Alex Evans.
Team Eurostep Twitter is a Brian Colangelo burner.
Yeah, because Brian Colangelo clearly wanted Colin Cowherd to be aborted. He just had to use the Team Eurostep account for that.
Welcome to the NBA. Numerous burner accounts.
Where'd you rip that one from?
The ball god.
Hey.
From Kevin Durant to Brian Colangelo.
Well, apologies for the little bit of the hiatus there. Myself and Killian Loftus were...
Word.
we were all the way over in sunny Madrid. Although it wasn't sunny, the weather was much nicer in Ireland. That was kind of... yeah. Let's not go there. So we have a lot to talk about since we were gone, and I think there is no better place to start than the greatest show on the earth. It is the NBA Finals, and it started last night. But before we talk about last night's game, let's just talk about how the two teams got to the NBA Finals. First, we'll discuss the Golden State Warriors. As we know, fourth straight finals. They beat the San Antonio Spurs in 5, round 1. The New Orleans Pelicans, round 2, also in 5. And then, in the conference finals, they beat the Rockets in 7. Alex, how would you describe the Warriors' run to the finals?
Predictable.
Is that it?
I'll just let that... No, I think there was some bumps. I think teams are starting to kind of figure their way around them. Obviously, last year... their first year they went 16 and won the playoffs, and now I know it's 4 games, but they lost a whopping 4 games so far. This is before the NBA Finals. We presume they'll lose at least 1 more, if not 2. So we've seen with teams, the Spurs, they didn't have much going for them. Last year they had Kawhi, but this year they're kind of whatever. They still managed to get a game off the Warriors, albeit without Steph Curry. The New Orleans Pelicans as well, who were on fire against the Blazers, gave them a good 5 games and stole 1 off them. And the Houston Rockets pushed them all the way to the edge. And, we're very close. We're only 9 points away from winning Game 7 in Houston in the Toyota Center and missing 27 straight 3-pointers. Along with that, the refs, I'm never one to give out about refs, but there was some dodgy calls in that series. Calls that have been given all series long. You just needs to be consistency there. You can't give calls for 6 games and then not for Game 7. I mean, even if there's only 3 points difference in the calls for Houston, and then all they need to do is make 2 out of 27 3-pointers. Don't get me wrong, missing 27 straight is inexcusable for any team, but all they have to do is make 2 or 3 more, and they're right there. So really, it was close, and I expect Houston Rockets to come back next year even better.
I mean, you can talk all you want about the refs, but 27 threes is the reason they lost the game. Refs don't win you a game like that. It's how you shoot. If you miss 27 threes in a row, you're not going to win any kind of basketball game. Most teams don't even shoot that many, let alone miss that many in a row. But this playoffs, it's been a lot kind of longer than Golden State might have hoped for. Like Alex said, they've lost 4 games so far. Will likely lose 5, maybe 6. Doubt it though. Could be anywhere.
8.
Could be anywhere from a sweep to 6 in these finals. But I think the series or the playoffs as a whole would be a lot shorter for the Warriors if it wasn't for injuries. We had Steph Curry gone for the first round. I say we. They had Steph Curry gone for the first round. I think that would have been a sweep with him in there. New Orleans would have been the same. They played a very good series and were unlucky to only get 1 game off the Golden State Warriors, losing that in 5. The Rockets, Andre Iguodala was gone for a fair bit of that series.
Steve Kerr was fairly certain that the Warriors would have finished that off in
5.
And
I'm fairly confident as well.
I don't think so.
They would. That's again a 5-game series. Then you're looking at they only lost 2 games, could end up sweeping these finals, and that looks like a pretty good playoffs from the Warriors.
But of course, you have to look at it from the other side, and you say what the Spurs were missing their best player, arguably the second best player in the league in Kawhi Leonard. The Pelicans were missing the best centre in the league in DeMarcus Cousins, and the Rockets were missing Chris Paul for Games 6 and 7.
One of the best true point guards in the game, and a huge part of that Rockets team.
Yeah, but Chris Paul wouldn't have mattered. It'd be over in 5. The Pelicans seem to play better without DeMarcus Cousins. Well, I think that isn't necessarily because he hurts their team. It's just the team as a whole stepped up in his absence to kind of make up for his loss. And then the Spurs, I don't think you can really count it against the Warriors because it's a very weird situation.
I suppose
you can't look at it as an injury.
But even looking back to the past few years, last year Kawhi Leonard out injured in Game 1 against the Warriors. I'm sure I'm going to miss a few, but if you can think, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love in the 2015 NBA Finals out straight away, and LeBron then on his own had no chance against the Warriors, and as they got their first championship without Kevin Durant. And there's been numerous other injuries there. Blake Griffin went out in the playoffs, I believe, against the Warriors sometime. I think Chris Paul was out as well. That was when they were on the Clippers a couple of years back. There's so many injuries just thrown in there that have helped the Warriors along the way. I don't think you can really justify it by saying Andre Iguodala was out for 3 games.
Yeah, but it goes the other way as well. It wasn't an injury. You could say last year's finals, the 2016 finals, or 2017 finals, 2016 finals. What am I thinking of? When the Cavaliers beat the Warriors, you could argue that Draymond Green missed, I believe it was Game 5, suspension.
Yeah, but that's suspension. That's not injury. I mean,
it was suspension.
Suspension is a suspension.
It was an arguable suspension.
He got his technical and he's out. That's just a decision. Injury is just unfortunate. You can't predict an injury.
You could say that it's all about, the Warriors are very kind of weird kind of situation as a kind of a bit of a dynasty. They haven't reached it yet. Maybe in the future, but they have been dominant. It's the kind of thing where with injuries have played a massive role in their kind of finals runs and playoff runs and that. If no injuries at all, you could say they might not have won any finals, or could say that they would have won even more. It's a weird run for the Warriors, but whatever you say about injuries and that, the fact of the matter is they're here, they're in the NBA finals, and they're gonna, they're here to play against the Cleveland Cavaliers, show them what they're made of.
So speaking of the Cleveland Cavaliers, when they had a strange run to the finals. I think it'll be fairly safe to say they beat the Indiana Pacers in 7 games in round 1. Then they swept the Raptors, which ultimately cost Dwayne Casey his job. And then they were taken to Game 7 again, this time by the Boston Celtics in the conference finals. So, Killian, I'll start with you. What do you make of Cleveland's run to the NBA finals?
A bit of an awkward one, really.
Not predictable.
A very awkward playoff run, really. They could have very easily lost in the first round against the Pacers. I think we'd really agree that the better team lost in that series. The Pacers were very good for pretty much the whole series. They played well. Oladipo, you could maybe say he choked a little bit towards the end of the series in games 5 and 6. He didn't play too well. Maybe if he had been his normal self, the series could have been over in 4. And, that would have been very scary for LeBron James to have lost in the first round against a young Indiana Pacers. They managed to get through, absolutely destroyed the Raptors in round 2. There's no denying that. They tore them apart, left, right and centre. There's not much more else to say. Then against the Celtics, very good series, very close. It was back and forth, blowouts left, right and centre, and then it got very close towards the end. The Cavs managed to pull it out over the Celtics. I'd say one of the tougher series he's had in the last couple of years, especially in the eastern side of things, disregarding the NBA Finals. Though he managed to pull through against the young Celtics, the injured Celtics, and he's in the NBA Finals looking for his 4th ring, I believe it would be.
Too shocked. LeBron's dominating the East once again.
Dominating.
Scrapes
2 series in 7.
Single-handedly drags his team through 3 series.
I think Jeff Green's 20 points helped in Game 7, though.
Jeff Green, who did nothing for the rest of the playoffs.
He stepped up in Game 7.
I think Terry Rozier's 4 points didn't help the Boston Celtics in Game 7 either, though.
I'd say Jason Tatum's poster dunk helped, though.
Oh, we got a salty Celtics fan.
Oh.
But I think...
you can talk as Heat fans.
I think at the start of the playoffs, if you'd said it the opposite way around, if LeBron was going to sweep the Pacers, go to 7 against the Raptors, and then sweep the Celtics as well, it would have been far more predictable than saying it the opposite way around. No one thought out of the 2 series. We've known that LeBron is known to completely dominate the Raptors, not even close. He's been pretty dominant against Celtics as well, not to the same extent, and the Pacers are a kind of young team. But just completely flipping the script altogether with 7 games, and then everyone's starting to look up when they sweep Raptors like, oh, here we go again, no one's going to stop them. And then the Celtics jump out to a 2-0 lead, and everyone's thinking, here we go, where is LeBron going to go after he loses this series? And here we go again, LeBron's back to the NBA Finals for 4th time in a row, back with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And 8th altogether. But it's been very interesting watching the Cleveland team this year, because obviously there are other players on the team than LeBron, but at times it doesn't feel like that. And I suppose we've had this discussion numerous times, but the truth is they'd easily be top 5 in the draft lottery if they didn't have LeBron.
Without a doubt.
No.
You're telling me Kevin Love and J.R. Smith are going to lead a team to not be the top 5 worst?
Look, Kevin Love a couple of seasons ago would have been enough to, like...
it's not
Kevin Love a couple of seasons ago. Kevin Love can give you one 20-point game per week as a second option to LeBron James now.
It's not because it's been a few years and he's not the same player. It's because he's playing behind LeBron James. Like, a lot of people disrespect Kevin Love.
In Minnesota, he was a monster rebounder. He was
and
a
then he
dominant
got
player.
put behind LeBron James and his numbers fell because he became the third option.
But he was still much better for Cleveland than he has been this year.
Yeah, he was...
Not really.
Did next to nothing this year.
He went to All-Star game pretty unanimously. Most people wouldn't have said he shouldn't have been an All-Star. Now all of a sudden he's an absolute scrub. People change their opinions way too fast in the NBA.
Okay, but just if you look at the numbers and you look at what Kevin Love has done compared to the rest of the team, he's supposed to be an all-star. On his best day, he'll maybe get 5 more points than the next best scorer on the team. He's
or 11 like last night.
Look, on paper, right? He was an all-star. He is not playing at an all-star level in these playoffs. That's the long and short of it. And he needs to if Cleveland are going to have any chance of winning these finals.
But they're still not going to be one of the 5 worst teams in the NBA without LeBron James. They won't make the playoffs, hands down, not a chance. But they're not going to be one of the 5 worst teams. Those 5, some of the bottom teams of the league, they couldn't give a crap about winning. They do their best to lose, and they won't obviously show it outright because they will get fined and sued by the NBA. We saw it with the Dallas Mavericks when Mark Cuban's come out and said, we're tanking this year. He got fined. The 5 bottom teams in the lottery, the Phoenix Suns, Sacramento Kings, Atlanta Hawks, Memphis Grizzlies and Dallas Mavericks, have absolutely nothing going for them aside from young prospects who are too young and inexperienced to bring them up. You're trying to tell me that Kevin Love and some decent role players that people disrespect a lot
they're decent
wouldn't
role
get
players.
them at least 30 wins and pass the 5 worst teams
They're
in the
decent
league.
role players, but that's all they are. Without LeBron James, who's going to take over on the team? Who's going to be the leader? There is no one that's the guy on that team. They're just the majority of their points. You look at Jeff Green, Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver. How would they get every single one of their baskets effectively?
From LeBron.
From LeBron James.
Because
LeBron
the team's
James
built around him.
There you go. And what are they going to do without LeBron?
Get 30 wins and not be one of the 5 worst teams in the league.
Look, they're good enough without LeBron James to get that. But why would they bother when they could just tank and get another prospect? I think that they would be good enough to do that without LeBron James, but they wouldn't because they know that it would be in their best interest to. Yeah,
but there's
tank.
still other teams who are in their best interest who are even worse. Like, there wouldn't be one of the 5 worst teams in the league without LeBron. I wouldn't say it's a fact, but it's my opinion.
But for a regular season, yes, they have 4 or 5 other NBA players, but aside from that, a regular season you need a bench. Who you gonna play? Kendrick Perkins, Chetty Osman.
Talking about
Ante Zizic. Come on.
They count out George Hill, Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson.
I mean, he had some pretty damn good games this playoffs. He's overpaid to crap, but
he's also had some poor games.
He had some pretty good games. Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson.
Oh, Rodney Hood's been fantastic in playoffs, I must say.
He's been trashed these playoffs, but he was Gordon Hayward's successor before the season. He did okay with the Jazz. As soon as he gets traded to the Cavs, he's absolute trash. You can almost say the same for Clarkson. He's a pretty good 6th man his whole career with the Lakers. straight to the Cavs, and now he's trash all of a sudden.
People thought he was going to be sixth man of the year. Now,
well, do you think it's...
He can't get a bucket.
Well, let's put it this way. Do you think it's much of a coincidence that once players get moved to the Cavs that they become absolute crap?
Well, it's not like they're not getting their opportunities. Like Jordan Clarkson's coming in getting the exact same shots, but they just won't go in. They're not living up to the pressure. They're too young. Rodney Hood is out here throwing tantrums, like refusing to go into the game. You gotta be ready.
Rodney Hood.
You don't try and work things like when you go to LeBron James teams. You figure out a way. You're an NBA player. You can play off the ball, make a shot. You've just got to get it done. That's the thing. Kyle Korver has got it done. J.R. Smith, Jeff Green, they've all got it together. They've learned how to play. You've just got to learn how to play with LeBron James. I can't just...
Prime example of a player who wasn't able to play with LeBron James starting off was Dwayne Wade, right? First season, they lost the finals because they didn't know how to play LeBron James and Dwayne Wade together.
And LeBron choked.
Well, no, that's not... because... Okay.
Part of the reason they lost is because Dwayne Wade and LeBron James could not play together. Dwayne Wade accepted that he'd have to play differently so that they could succeed as a team. They did. Now, look, there is no one on that Cleveland team that can even anywhere near compare to Dwayne Wade. But at the same time...
what's the point of making the point?
No.
They're nowhere near the same level of player.
But they still don't understand that they might have to change the way they play to succeed in a team with LeBron James. Rodney Hood was many people's favourite for most improved player this year because we thought he was going to come out of Hayward's shadow and shine in Utah. He did okay in Utah. He didn't do good enough in Utah, and that's why they traded him. And then he went over to Cleveland. He thought he could try and be the man, but he didn't realise, well, you can't be the man in Cleveland. There's LeBron James there. And what he's done is nothing. He might get garbage time now. And I think that's his own fault and not the team's and not LeBron's.
So what would you say about Jordan Clarkson? Looking at future multiple time, maybe sixth man of the year. Larry Nance Jr., one of the better hustle players in the NBA, an absolute solid piece for the Los Angeles Lakers. Both get traded to the Cavs, turned to absolute crap. Larry Nance Jr. has a good game every now and then.
I wouldn't say Larry Nance Jr. has turned to crap.
You've talked so much about how crap he is off camera. Or not off camera, off podcast. Now he has good game, all of a sudden he's a good player, like I don't see where you're going.
Well, look, I think we've talked enough.
Dushnut's fighting this argument. Dushnut's fighting this one, not me.
I'm just saying. And then even we were watching Game 7. You kept talking about how Jeff Green was absolute crap, and then he started playing well. He started putting up points, 20 points. Then you shut your mouth pretty fast.
I will say I've stood by Jeff Green the whole time. I love the way Jeff Green plays. Because there was one time I was watching the game, because he's number 32, he was coming down, he made a play or whatever, he's doing all this. I thought it was LeBron James going down there, but it was just Jeff Green. That's why I like Jeff Green.
He's a decent player. He's very inconsistent, but that's what role players are. Inconsistent. They'll have their nights, they'll have their off nights. It's the star players you rely on to get you buckets every day.
And you don't worry about LeBron James not showing up. LeBron James will show
LeBron
up.
will get you 20 points, at least 5 rebounds,
because
5 assists
LeBron
every
James
night.
LeBron James is going to show up. So you've got to do something. You can't just completely hide away in your shell like we saw George Hill and J.R. Smith do for much of the Boston series, especially in Boston. Completely shy away and do absolutely nothing. These are veteran guys who can't muster up 10 points combined between them in an NBA playoff game.
Yeah, but J.R. Smith was like drunk or something. you can't excuse 2 points per game at home before Game 7. That's absolutely pathetic. I'm not trying to defend that, but I just think that people disrespect the role players of the Cavaliers. As great as LeBron James is, my top 3 all time arguable GOAT. He has some decent role players around him.
Who's your third? I know it's MJ. It's MJ and LeBron. I don't know what order. Who's 3?
God damn. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
It's your own fault for saying top 3.
Sound top 2.
But when I look at this Cleveland team, on paper there are good, decent role players there, but I just don't see what roles they're fulfilling in these playoffs. I think that's the easiest way to put it without going in depth and talking about each individual player, their case before and after.
Looking through the names, you see a lot of guys that can be good, that have been good, that might be a lot of questions, but they're just not doing it. They're not going out there on the court and getting buckets, helping out their man LeBron James.
I mean, George Hill and Tristan Thompson, I would say, pretty much won the series against the Pacers. You could say LeBron obviously had the best game, but without their contribution, they're not winning that game. They won Game 7 for
yeah,
the
but
Cavs,
that's
I'd
what
say.
Teammates have to do. That's what you got to do. They got to do that more often. Looking back through history,
you talk about them as scrubs and how they do nothing, but they've won very important games for their teams.
Yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. We need to see more of that. Looking through playoffs, no one player has ever won a playoff series, or no one player has ever won an NBA championship. There has always got to be some help. But looking through LeBron James, there's very limited moments where he's had help, especially this playoffs. Maybe for a quarter or for a half. But for the rest of it, it's just been him dominating without his amazing performance. Looking back, even to some of the Sixers series against the Lakers, this is 2001. Iverson had a fantastic first half, struggled in the second half, and he had nobody, as people say. But guys like Eric Snow, they all stepped up. They all got buckets. They did their thing in the NBA Finals. That doesn't happen with LeBron. I win.
Not really. At the end of the day, we were arguing that they'd be a bottom 5 lottery team, not a chance. I don't see any kind of logic with that. Not a chance, like.
Oh well, we'll
no,
I'm sure we'll come back.
The reason
to
why I
this.
didn't say anything is I'm pretty happy you talked about how Allen Iverson had help, because I'm a massive advocate of that, so I couldn't really argue with that fact.
Right. So we do have to talk about the all-important Game 1 of the NBA Finals, which happened last night. The Golden State Warriors beat the Cleveland Cavaliers by 10 points after overtime, 127 to 117, despite LeBron James' 51 points, 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Kevin Durant was pretty quiet in the first half, but he did his thing and he got 26 points. Steph Curry really led the team with his 29, and even though maybe there's only 3 points in the difference between the two players, Steph Curry really stood out as the leader for that team. And I suppose it's very interesting to see, Cleveland did step up to some point. Larry Nance played very well at times during the game. He was getting easy buckets because of a leaky Warriors defense. Kevin Love played well, so did Tristan Thompson, but it still wasn't enough as the Golden State came up by 10. So you kind of wonder, what more do Cleveland have to do if they're just going to take a game, Alex?
Like we've said, when you're playing the Warriors, you can't have a good game. If you want to win against the Golden State Warriors, you got to have a perfect game. Looking at the Cavs, LeBron James, you can't expect any more from LeBron James. You're almost expecting his numbers to go down slightly. You can't count on LeBron to average. This is LeBron James, but you can't ask him to average a 50-point near triple-double for the whole series. Kevin Love had a good game, 21 points, 13 rebounds. He's got to be more efficient, 45% from the field, 1 for 8 from three-point range. You got to connect on more of them, even if you're going to shoot less. When LeBron finds Kevin Love in the corner mostly, or on a trailer, you want those ones to go in because those help. J.R. Smith as well, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 game thrown, it says here.
God.
Yeah, J.R. I almost feel sorry for J.R. Smith, but I kind of don't, because he's a multimillionaire and he already has a ring. I mean, you've probably all seen the last play. What was going through his head, man? He had the ball at the restricted area. All he had to do was throw it up, and it was probably going in, and the Cleveland Cavaliers take Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Yeah, but no, this J.R. Smith is pick-up ball. You got to take it out past the 3-point line, then find Kevin Love whose shot gets blocked. He couldn't even pass to LeBron James.
But even if he thought his team was up like he said he did,
and
why wouldn't he just put it up?
And quickly, the Steph Curry 3 from half-time, Steph Curry pulled up from 35 feet. There was no one near him, but that was because J.R. Smith slipped and let Steph Curry go straight by him as well.
Wasn't the first time J.R. Smith slipped in the game either. After he took out Klay Thompson in the first quarter, he got a lot of boos for the rest of the game from the crowd, even though that wasn't his fault. That was the guy with the sponge on the court not cleaning up. But you'd have to wonder. Golden State scored 127, had an off night.
24.
124?
Wow.
Yeah, 124. But that being said, they had 17 points in overtime.
Yeah.
Like, it's... When a game goes to overtime, the score may not always reflect the rest of the game. We've had this discussion already that, you just need a run in overtime, and that's what Golden State got. And it's hard to see where Cleveland go from here, because that's some of the best basketball they've played these entire playoffs.
They've got to just shoot out of their skin. They got to shoot like a Rockets or a Warriors. On their night when the Cavs get rolling from three, with guys like so many guys that can shoot the three. When LeBron finds his shot is clicking. He's a great shooter, and he attracts so much. He'll get other guys like Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, George Hill's an alright 3-point shooter, Jeff Green, Jordan Clarkson, Kyle Korver. There's so many guys that are near snipers, especially Kyle Korver and Jeff Green or J.R. Smith. When they get hot, there's not a whole lot that'll stop them. And only shooting 27% from three isn't enough in the NBA Finals to try and steal a game, if that's what you have to do. But everywhere else, their free throw shooting wasn't great, 72% to 95 with the Warriors, which is a little bit absurd. Everything else, only 11 turnovers for the Cavs, which isn't crazy numbers. Like, a lot of them probably coming off just the Warriors trapping LeBron and just not letting him do anything, because LeBron had 5, Love with 1, JR with 2, Tristan Thompson with 1, and Jeff Green with 1, and Jordan Clarkson with 1. But when LeBron James has the ball in his hands for so much, you expect him to have at least 3 to 5 turnovers. So it's hard to know really where they're going to touch up, because it was a fantastic game. They got to just put the ball in the bucket.
Yeah, if you're the Cavs, I don't really see where you go from there. You just kind of try and do the same thing, hope you can get a bit more production out of the other guys around LeBron. They got decent production, that's why the game was so close. Kevin Love had 21-13, then everyone else played decent. J.R. Smith had 10, George Hill 7, Larry Nance had 9, Jordan Clarkson 4 points, not great, but he didn't play too much. They had decent production from the guys around LeBron, but it's just
I don't know
how
decent 7 points, 33%
he's a
from
role
your
player.
starting
What do you
point guard
expect out of
is.
him? What do you expect out of a role player? Like?
You got 3 players in double digits.
Do you expect George Hill to get 17 points a night? Like,
he's got to give you more than 7 in Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah, but even George Hill is a very, very good defender. Like.
2 of them were threes. The other one was a free throw. The second free throw that was the one he missed, which would have won them the game effectively, which resulted in J.R. Smith getting the rebound, running out. If that play doesn't sum up LeBron James' teammates in a nutshell, George Hill misses the free throw to win the game. J.R. Smith rebounds it, runs it back out when he's 3 feet away from the basket, passes to Kevin Love, whose 3 gets blocked.
Well,
that was just a rough sequence, I think, for everyone in Cleveland, and LeBron James especially.
What summed up LeBron's value was for the minute and a half or so that he did not play in the first quarter, they lost an 11-point lead. It was cut down to 2. When he came on, he couldn't stop the momentum, and Golden State went ahead. To lose 9 points in a minute and a half, look, Golden State can do that against anyone, but I don't think that would have happened if LeBron were still on the court.
It's hard to know. Sometimes when it's kind of 50-50 with the Cavs. Sometimes when LeBron goes off, the Cavs they're kind of inspired, like, come on, we got to keep this up. I saw a few times against the Celtics that happened. LeBron sat down for a couple of minutes, and the rest of the Cavs weren't too bad. Like, they gave up a basket, but they held their own offensively, because like that, the Warriors could easily go on a run with LeBron James in the game. LeBron is known for being a very lazy defender, doesn't like to get back in transition all the time. So like that, when it's in the first quarter or the second quarter and LeBron might not be giving it 110%, and the Warriors can go on that run. We've seen they can just go on a 15-0 run in 2 minutes like that to anyone in the league, and they've probably done it to everyone in the league.
Yeah, LeBron James is a very valuable player. Like, everyone knows, there's no point in saying it, but he got decent production out of his teammates. That's why the game was close. All you can hope for is maybe you get a bit more out of Kevin Love. Kyle Korver had only 3 points, but then again, he only took 3 shots, so you can't expect much more out of how much he did that game. If maybe you get 10 out of Kyle Korver, maybe a bit more out of the other guys, then you can maybe sneak a win against the Golden State Warriors, but it's going to be tough for the Cavs. They really need everyone to play well for them to be able to get a win against the Warriors. We said it before and we'll say it again, you need to play perfect to beat these Warriors unless they have a shocker of a game themselves.
Just very briefly before we move on, Jalen Rose said Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are not Hall of Famers.
Oh my lord.
I think his head might still be in the wrong place after Kobe Bryant dropped all them points on him.
I was just thinking of a joke to make about that, and I'm not gonna lie.
But seriously, how can someone justify players who will probably have at least 3 rings, multiple Defensive Player of the Year in Draymond Green, one of the best shooters of all time in Klay Thompson? How do they not make the Basketball Hall of Fame?
They've never led a team to an NBA championship.
Because you have to lead a team to an NBA championship to enter the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
pathetic.
He clearly just wants to keep relevant in the headlines or something. I don't know what was going through his head.
Ever since Kobe retired, he's been on the spiral downwards.
Okay, so moving on, we need to talk about everything that's been going on with the burner account saga. Brian Colangelo allegedly having 3 burner accounts where he trash talks about his own players, the Philadelphia 76ers, and you kind of wonder, firstly, is this real? Secondly, why?
It's a very weird situation. We've seen this in the past. The obvious candidate is Kevin Durant with all his kind of burner account stuff. Like you said, supposedly Brian Colangelo is using these burner accounts to talk trash about his players, specifically Joel Embiid, players like those, saying about how they're not as good as they're made out to be and that kind of thing. People have done a lot of kind of research into the thing. It's becoming increasingly likely that it's actually his wife, his Italian wife. Can't think of her name, looking for it now, but there's 5 burner accounts, I believe, kind of pointed out. 3 of them end with 3 of them that were checked, 2 of them were closed afterwards, I believe, had the same last 2 digits when you go to change the password of it.
91.
Yeah, 91, which is extremely suspicious, looking like it's the exact same person doing it all. But
Brian Colangelo's phone number does not end in 91.
Allegedly,
or so reports. But the report coming out from Adrian Wojbaum that the 76ers are considering firing Brian Colangelo as investigation turns to wife.
It's interesting to see because it's not the first time someone's been found out with a burner account. Obviously, Kevin Durant accidentally tweeted on his real account instead of his burner. So I suppose just you have to wonder why is this necessary? Why can't people have the opportunity to tweet on their own accounts or say things to people's faces, even if that's behind closed doors?
Yeah, if he wants to say this, it wouldn't look good for the GM of the 76ers to talk, bad about his player, specifically kind of the franchise player in Joel Embiid, the player of the future, their star center, looking to be the best center in the NBA as soon as next season, if not, now, if he isn't already. I don't see, why they wouldn't do it. As, if they want to say these things, why can't they say them in public to the media or to just the player's face? Say, I don't think you do this right, maybe you should do it this way, that kind of thing. I don't know why they have to resort to burner accounts. I don't get it.
Yeah, even if it is him, which I don't think it is.
No.
I don't think there's any way that Brian Colangelo is stupid enough to go on these accounts and talk trash. And even if he is, I don't think he means it. I think
Yeah.
even if he did say it, even if they're listen, I was just joking. There's no way that a GM went and all his guys, his main guys, and they went to the second round of the playoffs this year. They're a pretty promising team for the future. There's no way he just dissed them all on burner accounts that aren't his, just because he really meant it. If he did it was probably just for the lulz, like because he was bored or something.
If you didn't like them, like, you could just trade them. Joel Embiid has a lot of trade value.
He was talking about Joel Embiid not being the face of the franchise in one. If you have a problem with Joel Embiid, call a meeting with Joel Embiid. You're the GM of the team. Like, if you like him, you can trade him. Don't talk trash about him on a burner account on Twitter. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think Joel Embiid would beat Brian Colangelo in a fist fight.
But it doesn't matter if you trade him to Phoenix. He's not going to beat you in a fist fight. Like.
Yeah, when you call a meeting, it's like, I want to trade you. I don't think you're right for this team.
Just don't
Joel
tell him.
Embiid stands up, towers over you. You'd be pretty damn scared. Like
Brian Colangelo says, I don't think you're a leader for this team. You don't fit this team. We don't like your leadership qualities. We're looking to trade you. You're on the trade block. Joel Embiid says, I don't like that, but okay. Joel Embiid's not going to stand up and punch him in the face. That's about as ridiculous as Brian Colangelo having 5 burner accounts that talk trash about the Sixers.
Yeah, look, I feel like we'd have heard about it before if players, when they're told they're on the trade block, went over and punched the GM in the face. I don't think it's something that would happen, and I don't think Brian Colangelo would be afraid of having to deal with getting punched in the face by Joel Embiid.
this is a 7-foot monster.
But he's not going to punch you.
He's not going to
someone
punch you.
said Brian Colangelo, Joel Embiid's about to punch you, then he's going to be scared.
But look, I feel like this is the wrong conversation. So I think we'll move on to another head office, and we'll head over to the Orlando Magic.
Who?
Orlando Magic. They hired a new head coach, Steve Clifford, on a 4-year contract. So, Killian, what do you make of this signing?
Who cares?
It's whatever, bro. Like,
They're not doing that the next year anyway. It doesn't matter who's coaching them.
The Hornets were going nowhere. Now the Magic can go nowhere. It doesn't matter. Like, you could put Greg Popovich in the Magic. I don't know if they're going to do a whole lot.
It wouldn't make the playoffs.
To be fair,
it doesn't matter who their coach is. It's just
like these bottom teams, they should just have a rota and rotate managers, because that's all they're doing is just getting out a new manager. Someone like, I don't see why the Magic there in their situation. They get Steve. Why don't you just say Becky Hammonds would give you a try?
She looks pretty promising as a coach.
Yeah,
She got a lot of praise from Hall of Fame level players like Pau Gasol. Why not take a risk on her? I'm sure she'd take it.
Greg
first
Popovich,
coaching job.
Top 2-3 coach of all time.
He has a kind of history as well with kind of developing his background staff. Budenholzer is a Popovich kind of project, and he's a pretty damn good coach. I'd be one to take the risk on Becky Hammonds. But then again, this Orlando, definitely, I think we'd all agree, the worst run franchise in the NBA.
Yeah. So finally, in upstairs news, the Detroit Pistons, according to Woj, are looking at Dwayne Casey to be their next head coach. Do you think this would be a good deal for Detroit, Alex?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Dwayne Casey is a good coach. Like, it's taken him a good few years to get to a decent level, but he's got there eventually. We saw what he did with the Raptors this year, but the Raptors are a good team. Like, the Pistons aren't expected to do a whole lot, so I don't know what the expectations of the Pistons were. Like, they were a lottery team this year, but I believe they were the 9 seed.
Yeah, 9
So they're kind of borderline playoffs, but with depending where LeBron James goes, a lot could happen in that East with teams falling out and other teams rising. Like, there's a few teams in the East that could look to change it up or blow it up. Like, the Raptors could blow it up, the Cavs, if they lose LeBron, the Heat. A lot of teams that might change.
Even like Charlotte might kind of blow it up a bit. They kind of get worse. So there wouldn't be as much competition for the Pistons for that playoff spot.
And there'll be more of a team next year. Obviously, they acquired Blake Griffin kind of midway through the season. So it'll be an interesting one to see, nonetheless. If nothing else.
Because, look, any team with 2 all-star caliber players, and Drummond and Griffin, obviously that's providing Griffin stays fit, and there's no guarantee on that. That's why he isn't still in Los Angeles. But if he can stay fit for 65 games maybe, and Andre Drummond has a good season, then you'd like to think the Pistons would be good enough to make the playoffs, at least with the way the teams are in the East at the moment. And I think Dwayne Casey would be the man to do that. When you look at the coaches, or the available coaches around the league, he is the best one that's available.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And now that
definitely.
Budenholzer is signed. So I think this would be a very positive move for Detroit if they were to sign Casey. So finally, on this episode, I will go back to our NBA draft previews, and we will talk about the point guard from Oklahoma State. He is Trae Young. Trae Young, he averaged...
Did you just say Oklahoma State, though?
Yeah.
That's where Marcus Smart went, come on.
Oklahoma State is OSU. They play in orange. It's not the same team as Oklahoma.
Whoa!
There's OSU and OU.
Okay, so he was to Oklahoma University.
You can tell how much
with the Oklahoma Sooners. Boomer Sooner. Yes, sir.
Alex is the college master.
Yes, sir.
Trae Young averaged 27.4 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 8.7 assists, 1.2 steals. However, he did average just over 5 turnovers per game. Oklahoma OU made it to first round of the NCAA tournament before being eliminated. But I suppose the worry with a player like Trae Young is that players who come out of college like him, they could be amazing or they could be major flops. And I think he has, out of maybe the top 10 players, he would have the biggest bust potential, which is something some head offices might worry about, because when you look at those numbers, you kind of have to wonder why he's not projected higher.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like a Steph Curry, like a Jimmer Fredette, as you mentioned in the opening. You don't know which way it's going to bounce. When Steph Curry was in the draft, teams were kind of like hesitant, but when he fell as far as he did fall, then teams were kind of jumping on him. But then when Jimmer Fredette came around, people thought, oh, here we go again with Steph Curry, and it was just complete opposite thing. They were supposed to be... Jimmer Fredette was supposed to be a god, and now he's a god in China. There's a difference there. But Trae Young, the one thing that I think might hurt him was my kind of biggest concern. With the way the NBA is now, I think he will find a job as a shooter, unless he just pulls a Markel Fultz and forgets how to shoot. We've seen he has the NBA range. He can score, he can shoot, he can pull up. He has that pull up, the NBA shot almost. But he's only 6'2" with shoes, 6'1". He's quite small for that. I think he's 6'1.5", or something along those lines. He was around the 175-pound mark. Now there's been reports he's put on more weight than that, but he's got to keep putting on the weight because he was a pretty small guy, and to be a pretty skinny guy at 6'1" in the NBA playing point guard, he will just get bullied and pushed around.
Yeah, his bust potential is the main kind of scary aspect of his game. I think a lot of people compare it to Steph Curry, but the main difference is Curry is unathletic compared to the athletic freaks you see in the NBA. In general, Curry is an extremely athletic player. He's very fast. He's pretty strong for his size, and he's not a bad jumper. Trae Young, he's not as fast as Curry. He's not as strong, although he has put on a fair bit of muscle, with the reports Alex mentioned earlier. And he's not a great jumper. That's kind of the fear with it, that he might be more of a gymmer than a Steph Curry because he doesn't have that bit of athleticism that Steph Curry does. But he's an absolute sniper from three-point range. He shot over 46% on catch-and-shoot jump shots, which is absolutely crazy. We've seen he has NBA range. He showed it off a lot. That's the main struggle a lot of players have transitioning from college to the NBA, that three-point line can be a bit tricky. They might shoot poorly from three their first year or two and pick it up as their career goes on. But Trae Young looks like he has that NBA range already. He didn't shoot too well from three altogether, about 36%, but his team wasn't very great as a team, and a lot of the focus, especially towards the end of the year, when his shooting percentages slumped a lot, was all the focus of the defense on him, and it really kind of slowed his game down and his numbers. But I expect that to change in the NBA, where he won't be the guy in his team, at least for his first couple of years, where he'll have other guys to take the pressure off him, and he can just maybe stand on the wing, shoot, catch and shoots. At the very least, I think he'll be a good shooter in the NBA.
Yeah, that's one of my problems with Trae Young as well, especially with the comparison to Steph Curry. His turnovers are a serious problem. I know he's had to carry the load, but Steph is known to be a pretty efficient player at times, doesn't turn the ball too over, makes smart plays, and his shot selection is pretty good. But for Steph Curry, a 35-foot pull-up is pretty good.
For
shot
Steph Curry, he has good
well.
shot selection.
Yeah.
For anyone else, he's stupid.
But as well as that, his finishing ability inside, like we said, his body size obviously doesn't help with that. But Steph Curry is well known to be one of the best finishers in the NBA, alongside maybe a Kyrie Irving, LeBron James. They're the kind of top finishers. Like, Curry can finish from anywhere inside the paint pretty much, and that kind of opens up his game, because you can't just sit and wait for him to shoot a three-pointer. You've got to, because he could blow straight by you if you're too close in a three. That's what gives Steph that edge. You're not really going to get the same with Trae Young. Yeah, he is quick, he is pretty deceptive, but if you've got a big guy back there, you're not too worried about Trae Young cutting to the hoop.
Yeah, but another flaw you might see in his game, it's a lot more under the radar than stuff like his athleticism and his finishing at the rim, is his mid-range jump shot. You might think, mid-range, that's obsolete in today's NBA. It's 3-ball and layups, but it can be a useful asset to kind of, there's the threat of you pulling up for mid-range rather than he's either shooting a three or taking it to the hole. He shot 16% on mid-range jump shot, making only 4 all year long for the Oklahoma Sooners. It's not good at all. He needs to have that kind of threat. All the top scoring point guards like your Kyrie Irvings, your Damian Lillards, even your Steph Currys have very good mid-range games that they can rely on if their 3-ball isn't falling, or if they're not doing well at the rim. If there's a good rim protector like a Rudy Gobert or someone like that, it's good to have that mid-range game that you can use to get you a few easy buckets as well. You talked about his shot selection, his turnovers, his defense as well is a big kind of question about his game. He said that in a recent interview. I can't remember what it was. I saw it though. I think it was at the draft combine. He said that he's excited to kind of get into the NBA and kind of learn about defense. He
Prove himself, because he said he knows he's a good defender, but
he knows he didn't kind of show his defense in college, which we all know he was very bad on the defensive end in college. But you could compare that to a James Harden, where he had to carry the load so much offensively that his defense really suffered. I think maybe you could make that comparison. I don't think he'll ever be a lockdown defender, but if he can at least play solid defense, similar to a Steph Curry, who we all know isn't a great one-on-one defender, but he tries hard and he's a good team defender. If Young can turn out like that, where he's a decent defender and a really good shooter, there's definitely a place for him in the NBA, and he definitely has a chance to be something special if he puts in the work and improves his game.
Right, so he's projected somewhere between 6th and 9th, depending on where you look. Those picks belong to Orlando, Chicago, Cleveland, and New York. So, firstly, where do you think he'll go? And secondly, where would you like to see him go? I'll start with you, Alex.
It's hard to know where he's going to go. We've seen, someone could take a risk on him up higher, or, he might fall because teams might not want to take the risk. There's so much talent up the top of this draft in the lottery. He could well fall down. But I think we mentioned before, the Knicks, they have the hots for each other. There's mutual interest being shown between the Knicks and Trae Young. I think that would be good for a big market. It would really show if he's kind of a good player or a bust pretty quickly. I think the New York market would judge him to be a bust pretty quickly, or get on the Trae Young hype train.
Yeah, New York would be a great place for Trae Young in terms of marketability. There's looks about Puma moving towards Trae Young. I definitely think you get a lot from kind of sponsorship deals if he shows up in New York, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, and if he can overcome that pressure and still play his game, it'd be a brilliant place as well. He'd pretty much get his full rookie a year to do whatever he wants. We know Kristaps Porzingis will likely miss all of next season with his ACL injury, I believe it is, so I give him a full year to kind of develop as a player, and then year after he can come back with Porzingis, and that could be a deadly pick and roll duo. We know Trae Young's a very good pick and roll player, Porzingis is just a great player altogether. But that is if he falls down to number 8. I could definitely see Orlando taking the risk on him if they can't get Mo Bamba, because he's a kind of risky player and they're not really going anywhere. So he could be a good player for their organization. They could do with a point guard after losing Alfred Payton, but it's a tough one. I think he'll go 6 to 8. If Orlando don't take him, if Cleveland don't take him, New York definitely will. I think Cleveland could also take him. We've seen in the past that LeBron has he likes Trae Young's game. He's shown support for him in the past, saying, why wouldn't he declare for the draft after the season he had? And we could be looking at a similar situation to the Miami Heat back in 2014. When LeBron entered free agency, the Heat traded for Shabazz Napier, a point guard LeBron showed a lot of interest in, and he liked his game. They traded for Shabazz Napier to kind of try and lure LeBron back to Miami. It didn't work, and we might see a similar situation with Cleveland. They might draft Trae Young to look at LeBron and say, hey, we got Trae Young, you want to come back to us? And it's like, yeah, no.
And I think, maybe even in his rookie year, I think Trae Young might give you more than 7 points in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
But,
That's for another day. Just finally, with some draft talk, there has been speculation over the last week or so that Boston might like to trade to get Mo Bamba. So, Killian, obviously you know the most about Boston. What would you make of a deal for Mo Bamba?
spoiler alert, I think every team wants Mo Bamba. I'll just throw that out there.
But not every team has expressed interest in Mo Bamba. But as a whole, they'd obviously have to trade up. I assume it would be some kind of deal where they're like, if you draft Mo Bamba, we'll trade this to you or whatever. But as a Celtics fan, it's mixed. I'd obviously love to have Bamba. He's an incredible prospect, but it's more about what you have to give up in order to get the pick to take Bamba. There's a lot of talk about having to give up Jaylen Brown. If that's the case, not a chance. I don't want it to happen. He's shown so much growth, not only over the season, but especially in these playoffs. He's really shown that he can be a good scorer. He can get you 20 points any given night. He led the Celtics in scoring for the entire playoffs and was a great player on both sides of the floor. So I don't know why you trade what's looking to be an all-star for years to come for a raw prospect like Bamba, who you're not even sure if he's going to be kind of the man who will lead your team kind of defensively, maybe because he's such a monster. But it's Jaylen Brown. I'm saying no. I don't think the Celtics will give up Jason Tatum with how much he's shown, especially in the conference finals. So I don't really think it'll happen unless Danny Ainge managed to finesse some kind of deal out of the Magic or someone like that, which I wouldn't be surprised with. He's Danny Ainge.
Alex, do you have anything to add?
Unless they give up a load of picks, I don't think the Celtics really want to give up a whole lot for a guy like Bamba.
You might be looking at the Kings pick next year. That's a pretty good draft pick to give up. If a team's saying like, what are you looking at, Alex? Sarcastic. But you might be looking at something around the Kings pick, maybe another couple draft picks trade up, but that could be about it. I hope there's no other good prospects available to trade away.
Right, so we'll have to leave it there for this week.
No, I think we should keep going.
Alex is dying to get out of here. So thanks again to CRC for the studio. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. We are Team Eurostep on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Of course, if you enjoy our content, please support us on Patreon. As little as €1 a month would help immensely. So until next time, it's going to be goodbye from Killian.
Yeah.
Goodbye from Alex.
Yeah.
And goodbye from me. Until next time, keep grinding.